Hello everyone. Happy Monday motivation and mindset. Thank you so much for being here to listen today. Today I wanted to share with you guys a writing that I found that Arturo did many years ago. I found this to just be such a profound and a beautiful writing, and I really wanted to share it with you. Some may find it a little controversial, but try to keep an open mind, and there's just so many beautiful things about it. So what he called it was called the body, the mind, and the spirit connection. So, in essence, it refers to the deep interrelation that exists between our physical, our mental, and our spiritual aspects that we have. So, they don't work separately, guys. They work together, but they're going to flow together constantly and simultaneously. So, starting with the body. The body is going to be the vehicle that allows us to experience this physical world that we're in, right? Through it, we move, we feel, we react to our environments. Our body is in charge of processing and regulating our experiences through our regulatory mechanism, which is our brain and our nervous system. So moving on to the mind, your mind, it is going to be the center of our thoughts, our emotions, and our perceptions. So it is what is going to interpret the information that we receive from the outside world around us. And then we have the spirit. So the spirit, it's often associated with our deepest essence, with our connection with something greater than ourselves, with our intuition. It's a creative substance that is going to allow us to be alive and to transcend. So understanding and cultivating this connection is going to allow us to improve our general well-being. So when your body, your mind, and your spirit are all in balance, we experience a better sense of peace, happiness, and also health. So we become more aware of our thoughts, our emotions, bodily sensations. It's going to allow us to make better decisions. It's going to allow you to respond more efficiently to our life's challenges and realize how our thoughts and our emotions are affecting our body. So, develop our potential by connecting with our deepest essence, discovering our unique talents and gifts, and thus we are going to be able to live a much fuller life. When we work in synchronicity with the body, the mind, and the spirit, it's also going to help us to strengthen our relationships. And so, thus, what happens is a deeper connection with ourselves. So, many people ask, what can we do to strengthen this connection? Like, is there something that I can do? The first thing you could do is meditation. So meditation is going to help us to calm the mind, and it's going to connect us with our inner self. You could even do yoga. Yoga helps to unite the body and the mind. So with physical movements and the breathing, as well as the relaxing part of it, our muscles are going to release the tension that they often feel on a daily basis. Connecting with nature is another one that's going to help us to reduce our mental fatigue by being in nature and having the nature around us. There's spiritual practices like prayer, reflection, helps us to strengthen that connection with the divine. There's also breathing techniques that could help us to calm the mind, reduce the stress. Next, physical activity. So the physical activity is the one that helps us to release the tension, and it's going to improve our overall health. And then also remember, conscious nutrition, guys. Eat as healthy as you possibly can. So the body, the mind, and the spirit connection is essential for our well-being and your personal development. So by cultivating this connection, we can live a fuller, meaningful life, and you're going to have harmony within yourself and also the world around you, guys. So we are human beings. The word being, it's going to represent the subatomic energy, light, electricity particles that we do not see. We can't see them. The word human is the body, the matter. The body is the representation of the being on another level, on a denser energetic level. So what does this mean? So that we are in part of being, we are as if we were another person, but in a higher vibration where the body does not have tangible density that you can actually touch, but that does mean it doesn't mean that it does not feel or you don't think. So the being represents the soul. What we know as our soul is the being. The type of body we have is the same as our soul. It can be any type of soul. Everybody comes in different shapes and forms. So different types of souls, right? There's good souls, there's also bad souls. So in the human being, the body, the mind, and the spirit connection is divided into the following ways. So the body has a brain, and the brain is a processor. This processor was designed to process thoughts, but it was also designed to make us feel that this life means something. So the mind is above the head. Many think that the mind is in the brain, but no, the mind is actually directly connected to your brain, because the mind is in charge of bringing spirit, fuel, and or substance, you could call it, to our body. So the spirit, guys, is actually radiation. The spirit is particles. The spirit is subatomic power. The spirit is substance. So as if it were water from a spring that they use to drink, right? The spirit is a fuel that has to reach our body, but it has to pass through the mind, because the mind and the brain are connected, because the body will indicate to the brain what occupies the mind. Then the mind will attract the spirits, that is, what the body needs will bring it through the mind. So as the spirit has no meaning, then the mind is in charge of giving a vibration to the spirit so that the brain can process it. Sounds a little bit complicated, but it's absolutely fascinating, guys. So if the body is sick and it's in need of healing, your body is going to vibrate that it needs healing, and the brain's going to give a vibration that it needs healing, and then the mind will go away to activate, so that the mind brings spirit to the body for the purpose of healing that specific area of your body that needs the healing. So the problem of the human being is not in the brain or in the spirits. The problem of the human being is in the mind, because the mind is the one that decides how heavy or light a vibration will be that the process of the brain will give to the spirit. So how are you going to process that substance? How are you going to use that gasoline? Are you going to use it to start the car and go from one place to the other? Or are you going to use it to fill a room, light a match, burn it? It will only bring the spirit to the body. And although the mind brings that vibration, the body in the end is the one that's going to obtain that spirit, that fuel. And it will burn it in various ways. So it can be with a good idea, but it could also be with a bad idea, guys. Or it will burn it through trauma. So if we have a lot of traumas in our body, if the person feels bad because of a trauma, what does their subconscious mind do? The subconscious mind is the recording that we have in our brain of everything that has happened to us, and it is recording in our body. And if we had a lot of traumas in life and a lot of abuses, that's your vibration. So therefore, your subconscious mind will make your brain and your body ask for more fuel from your mind with the bad ideas. So the spirit, we decide how to use that gasoline. The spirit, remember. So that is why God gave us the greatest power that we have, which is the power of choice. We have the power of choosing. So God tells us, here, I give you my spirit. I give you this fuel so that you can make of your life what you want. Are you going to create with this, guys, or are you going to destroy with this fuel that you are given? How are you going to use this force? How are you going to use this legacy, this gift that I give you, right? Are you going to build or are you going to destroy? It's going to be up to you. So are you going to be good or are you going to be bad? So God made us good and God made us bad. All human beings have the vibration of the option to be good or to be bad, guys. We need to remember that. So when we are bad and we don't want, to learn to be good, when we're good, we don't want to learn, to be bad, right? So in the end, everything is a choice. We can't spend our whole life in neutral. There are three powers, remember, the good, the bad, the neutral. When we get into neutral, when we want to make a decision whether we're going to do something that's good or so bad, right? Many times we don't think until we see that something that we did, it wasn't good or it was bad, but it's after the fact, right? So it's based on many circumstances. Gosh, it's based on society, based on yourself, etc. But in the end, it is what you feel, right? So in reality, God has never abandoned us, guys. God is always with us through the Spirit that feeds us every single day. That is something you need to remember. We're the ones that decide what to do with God. We are the ones to decide what to do with Spirit, with that substance. How are you going to use the divine light in your life? Are you going to use it to improve? Or are you going to use it to worsen your life and to get better? So in the end, you decide whether you're conscious or whether you're not. So all this just so that the human being simply learns to decide things consciously. So when a person cannot make decisions, they're stuck because they're a victim of something, or because they can't get out of a vicious circle, or there are so many different circumstances, guys. But the reality is that when we cannot make a decision, what God wants you to do is to be aware that the body the mind, and the spirit connection is simultaneous. It's happening at all times. It's happening every moment on 3 levels, guys. This isn't separate. We are a whole. Without spirit, we are nothing. So without spirit, we would die. With too much spirit, we could also die, right? So we have to balance. That's why the mind connects with the brain, and the brain is an organ of balance. So this balance is divided into 2 primary functions. The right side of the brain is in charge of the creativity, the one that's in charge of the dreams, the one that's in charge of what's not going to matter, what is going to matter. It's to create. And the left side is in charge of processing all these ideas and your intuitions of the right side and to give it the form and the physical structure, as well as to give meaning to our life, right? So spirit is what we need to have for our creative mind to create matter. If we put in our mind that we need to get ahead, we'll get ahead, right? If we don't put that in our minds, we're not going to get ahead, because if you do not believe it in your mind, your brain is not going to believe it either. Your heart won't believe it. It's when the mind is divided into positive or negative, which one are you going to use, right? The positive or the negative. So many times we're going to blame spirit because we didn't receive the help that we asked for. But if we realize that if we ask in the negative, we receive negative, and if we ask in the positive, we receive the positive, many times we think that we're not heard. But the reality is that we have to see how we are asking, guys. Most of us think that way, unfortunately, because of religion. Religion never really explained to us that God is spirit. It's a fuel, substance to make your life possible in this universe, guys. Religion told us that God was good. Religion comes and tells us that God created the universe, that made everything, right? The human being and the planets. He made everything. So God is the unique particle that developed everything. Before God, nothing existed. Then we start to enter into a sequence. So religion puts God as a good being, but skips and says that the devil is bad. But the devil came after God. So therefore, the devil and everything bad was also created by God. So when we realize that God made the good and the bad, but also created neutrality, therefore creating the decision. He said, look, I'm going to give you 2 options. Which are you going to take? And that's where we all get so confused, right? That's why there are many people, they lose their faith because they simply can't see the good in the bad, nor the bad in the good. So today we're living in this system. I think many of you are coming to realize that we live in a system where they are leaving us without God. They're destroying our identity as human beings. They don't want us to be beings, but also they don't want us to be humans, right? So because human beings by nature will always be good and always be bad, but they will also by nature choose, right? So we will always choose, and we cannot live in a world where they tell us that God is good, but that God did not make everything good, right? So if God had made everything good, bad wouldn't exist, right? So it's sad to see how many religions have wiped out other religions, and they have killed millions of people on this planet in the name of God, right? And it's not because the other people were bad. It was simply because the other people did not share the same rituals of beliefs. So unfortunately, religions have failed, and the only reason why religions have failed human beings is because they have taken advantage of them. And I think we could all see that. They have taken advantage to maintain some kind of control, right, from a benefit. And that benefit has always been some sort of an economic benefit, playing with emotions, and the nature of psychology. So with the primitive nature of the human being that says, I am afraid of what? Of everything, guys. Fear is part of our human design, and it serves to give us a mechanism and a sense of survival. But certain people who like power have seen it as a power to take advantage of you and to keep you in fear all of your life, from the time that you're little up until the time that you die, right? So this is why most of us live in fear, and we don't use the fear just to survive. That's already natural. But now we use fear not to get ahead. We use it to not remove bad rulers. We use fear to not confront our family about what they're doing wrong. We use fear to stop us from our human greatness. And we use fear to simply start thinking that it is how life is, and that's just it. And there's nothing you can do about it. But In reality, we are a processor. We are a mechanical, atomic design. The body represents the atomic part of the soul at a physical level. So the atomic part, that is what generates the physical matter. But we are also spirit and the mind. So therefore, we are subatomic and atomic beings. We are beings of body, mind, and spirit as a whole. But nowadays, society, certain cultures, religions, governments are always wanting us to be separated. They want to disconnect us from our identities. They want to disconnect us from spirit. And that's why today the biggest problem we have as humanity, it's an identity problem. That's what it is. It's the governments of the world that are, going to be able to control everything, and they're trying to make the young people believe that an identity crisis is something normal, that this is how life is. But the truth is that this is not normal, guys. It's not normal, and especially, today with the young kids and the children, they don't know who they are. So as long as society is kept without identity, there will be no culture, there will be no respect. And our children and young people are confused, and they will continue to be. They will keep them under identity crisis in order to dominate humanity. And we can see it right now. It's what's happening. An identity crisis of not knowing who you are, what gender you are, or having a definition is going to cause you to never define or know who you are. All that is told to young people that has to do with acceptance is nothing more than a cheap and a dangerous trick. And it's just happening to maintain this dysfunctional society, right? We can see it. So teaching a society to destabilize their children has nothing to do with being connected with spirit. By doing that way, you're not going to know who you are. No, these people, the governments, they care more about keeping you separate. They'll make your mind sick. They'll confuse you so that it makes your brain sick. It's going to make your body sick. And then all this spirit that we talked about that's entering into you, you're going to burn that, and it's not going to serve you. Things that will make you sick in the end, the spirit will never fail. The spirit is always going to be there, guys. All those people who think that God has abandoned them, it is because they decided in their mind that God has abandoned them, and they abandoned themselves. Not taking actions to do something for themselves, and the spirit is there. But when we're using the spirit only to burn it with a life of suffering and pain and stupidity, that is why people get depressed. So once a person gets depressed, the spirit, it's never going to be enough. And that's why so many people, they die of depression, because they lack the spirit. So the Drellian method, the Drellian philosophy, the Drellian healing, it is based on two very important things that Arturo created this Drellian method. If you're stuck in life, it's because something needs to heal. And once you begin your healing, you have to start reprogramming so that you can see the future, and you can start changing all those patterns that are left in your brain so that you can retrain your brain. You're going to retrain your nervous system so that it reacts differently to circumstances. So that's why we base healing and reprogramming. So you need to heal, and after you heal, you need to be sure to go back and do the reprogramming for yourself. If you only do the healing, which is a part that a lot of people do, and you don't do the reprogramming, you will notice that you go back into the same thing, and you're going to repeat the pattern. When the body's already full of impressions or imprints, that absorbs the spirits in pure negativity, because the mind is already in the negative, practicing gossip, fears, anguish, worries, etc. So the healing and the reprogramming must be done. The human experience indicates that we come to an external experience. That is why we're given senses of perception that are to perceive the world outside, to perceive what's around us. When we think that all the answers are within us, it's not always like that, because when we look inside ourselves for the answers that we're looking for and we can't find it, and then suddenly we look at something outside and then we find that answer there, then we can also find the answer outside. So the body represents outside. The mind represents the inside. So the spirit is inside and outside. So we need to remember that it's both. So perception is what is going to change everything for you guys. This is very important to remember. So how you perceive your life, we have to build our perception. If you don't build the perception of life, life is going to give us a perception of life that we may not like. That happens to a lot of people. So the intelligent ones, those that took over the worlds, they realized that by generating material poverty, they would make people live and build mental misery. So by building that mental misery, because they live in misery, misery is not poverty. Poverty is a number. Poverty indicates that you have less. But misery could be in a millionaire, but misery, a miserable person. So that's what they create. It's misery. So by creating poverty, they have more of a chance of creating the misery, because misery is that feeling. It's a feeling of not having. It's miserable also coming from the poverty, right? Because the less you have, the more miserable you're going to feel. But you can also feel miserable if you feel sick, or when you don't have love, or even compassion for yourself, right? So misery, remember, is a feeling. Poverty is a number. And if we disconnect, or if our connection is not based between your body, your mind, and your spirit, the nervous system will remain at this low vibration, right? So the body will magnetically attract the same thing that you think and you have. So think about this. If you have fears, you're going to attract more people with fears into your life. You'll attract more situations of fear. We have to be willing as human beings to make a change. And that is what your body will give you when you start to restrain it by restraining your brain, retraining your brain and your nervous system. So how can you train it? With your mind. The reality of things is that a human misery is based only on one thing. What do you have in your mind? The mind is a gifted being, guys, and it will give you good or bad. If we want to change and retrain our brain in a positive way, we must start working in a positive way. But if not, then you're going to continue in a negative way. That's what will continue to attract, right? So in the end, it's your decision, guys, what you choose to do. I wanted to let you know this message was issued from the Mexican dimension of the Extraterrestrials United for a Better Humanity, from Arturo Gaitan. Have a wonderful day, everyone, and thank you so much for watching.